Hi, I'm Karen Smyth, and I'm this week's guest crafter at Craft Lovers. I'm here to bring awareness to the library's feedback drive, which is going on until October 25th. You can find our survey at any of our branches, Callicoon, Narrowsburg, and Jeffersonville, or online at wsplonline.org or through our Instagram link. You can win a $50 gift certificate at Agway. So I am a 20-year patron of the Sunshine Hall Free Library, which serves the towns of Highland and Lumberland. I am part of the Western Sullivan Public Library through the Ramapo Catskill Library System. So if I need to find any book, for example, I've got 4 kids. They've gone through many book series over the years. And if I go online, I can pull from any of those branches. Hi, I will be making a pouch weaving today that can hold all your tiny treasures, from your mask, your earbuds, your chapstick, and of course, your library card. All right, so after you've gathered your supplies, you are going to make your cardboard. You are going to want your cardboard about 1 inch longer than what your object is tall, and about a 1/2 inch wider than your object is wide. So here's my earbuds. You can squish the mask in, get all this in. And you're going to want to make sure that your cardboard runs vertically. That's the corrugation of the cardboard. And you can tell when you kind of bend it, it runs vertically. Then you're going to draw a line. You're going to have your top and your bottom. You're going to draw a line 1/4 inch across the top, 1/4 inch across the bottom, and you're going to make 1/4 inch segments all the way across. You're going to want to make sure it's the same number on the top as the bottom. Then you're going to take your scissors and snip the slots, just right up till that line. All right. Now we are going to start the warp, and we're going to wrap our warp, and the warp thread is what you are going to weave into. The warp thread is your foundation. So you're going to take whatever string you're going to use, yarn. You're going to start at the first slot on the top, put your yarn into that slot, come down to the bottom, go into that first slot at the bottom, come up to the top, back into that first slot you started with, and you're going to make a little loop and move over to the next slot. Then you're going to come down in the front, go down to the second slot in the bottom, come up to the same slot you started, and you're going to make a loop. Now you're going to go down the back, up that third slot, back up into that third slot, and at the top you're going to move over and come down. You're going to come up, come back up to that slot, go over, oops. Sometimes you have to kind of loop it so you can get it in. And I'm throwing my yarn on the ground so I don't have to keep tugging it. Oop. Come back to the top. So at the top, you're going to see a little horizontal line going every other row. On the bottom, you are just going to see just the loops going up, and it's the same on the back. The loops going up, you're going to see one little horizontal line every other stitch. That way you know you're warping it correctly. I'm going to come over, get that loop in that slot, come down in the back, loop at the bottom, come up to that same slot, And you're going to go over, down, up, over, oops. All right. Down. And if the tabs bend, just fold them back. Boop. Boop. Come down to the bottom and you come back up to the top. And now you are done. And I'm going to cut about a 3-inch tail. And we want to kind of get rid of these top threads just so they're out of the way. So I'm just going to wrap it. Doesn't matter how you wrap it. I just want these threads out of the way. And same with this beginning one you started with. I'm going to pull that one out. Oops. Not coming out. Well, we'll just leave that one. We'll just leave it. No, I really want to take it out. All right, so you're going to do the same thing. You're just going to kind of get it out of the way and just wrap it around a couple times. There. All right, it is time to weave. So I've picked my colors. I picked my yarn. The yarn can have a different texture. Here's a thin yarn, thin. Here is a fuzzy yarn. And here is a thicker yarn. You're going to want to choose whatever colors you use, but also pick different textures. So as you can see, different textures kind of give kind of a fuzzier feel, a woolly feel, and it just adds to the pouch. All right, so I'm going to start with I'm going to start green. And you're going to want to do double arm's length. And I think I'm going to double this up because it is thinner. So I'm going to just 1 arm's length and then your 2nd arm's length. And I'm going to just thread your needle. If you use a tapestry needle, it's got a nice big head, so it can have nice, and I'm doubling this, which means you'll have 2 ends at the end. And let's see, I'm going to start. I'm actually going to tie a little knot in this. So that knot, I just tied at the back, so it's just out of my way. And you're going to start weaving. The premise of weaving is just over, under, over, under. So I'm going to start over this thread, and I'm going to go under the other thread. Over this thread, under the other. Over, under, over, under, over, under, over, under. And I'm going to pull it all the way through. And then you're going to tamp it down, meaning you're going to bring it as far down to the bottom as you can. Now I'm going to flip the card. Well, first it's under, and I'm going to start over on this side. Over, under, over, under, over, under, over, under, over, under, over, under. Pull it through and tamp it down. Now, when you come back to that front side again, you're going to want to do the opposite of what you see. So this stitch is going over, this stitch is going to go under. So you're going to go under, over, under, over, under, over, under, over, over, under, over. I'm going to pull through. And you're just going to want to check that it is opposite. I've got the one row before over, this row under. And that is what weaving looks like. Over, under, over, under. You may have done this in elementary school with corrugated cardboard and construction paper. Now I'm going to flip over, flip. I'm over here, so I'm going to go under. Under, over, under, over, under, over, under, over. I can pull my threads up just to help the needle go through. I'm going to pull across. And you're just going to want to double check. This one's over, this one's under. And you can see it at your beginning rows. I'm going to flip, And I'm going to do the opposite again. Over, under, over, under, under, over, under. Pull through. Yep. I'm going to tamp it down. Eventually, the more we weave, we're not going to see these warp threads anymore because we're tamping it down super hard. Flip over, and here I've got an understitch, so I'm going to go over it. And the weaving is actually the easier part. Warping those beginning threads is actually harder. Flip over. This stitch is over, so I'm going to go under. And I use my hand to kind of help the needle pull. All right, I'm almost coming to the end of my first color. Go. Oh, there, I made a mistake. See how this is the same as the one before? Well, I'm just going to pull it out. Where did I make the mistake? And I'm still going to pull it out. So if you make a mistake, you just pull it out. Ah, I made it right at the beginning. So this was over. I should have gone under, over, under, over. All right, we are at the end of our yarn. I've cut the yarn off my needle and I'm going to figure out which color to go next. I think I'm going to go this thicker yarn. And I'm going to do the same thing I did before. Double arm's length. I'm going to cut it. And I'm just going to do just a little knot. Usually in weaving, you don't use knots. But this is just a pouch, it's not a dish towel. Doesn't really matter about the knot. I'm going to thread my needle. And I'm going to see where I ended off. This goes over, so I'm ready to just flip this card. This one is under, so I'm going to have to go over. Under, over, under, over, under, over, under, over, under. And I'm going to pull that all the way through. At the beginning, it's sometimes knots up a little. And I'm going to tamp it down. I'm going to flip. This one's under, so I'm going to start over, under, over, under, over, under, over, under, over, under, over, under. And we are just going to continue this all the way to the top. I do want to show you one other thing. This pouch has some beads in it. If you wanted to add, to give it a little bedazzlement, you can put some beads on. You just thread a bead on your needle, make sure it goes over this head of the needle. Slide that bead down and just put it wherever you want it in the row as you're weaving. All right, so I'm going to flip over. This one's over. I'm going to go under, over. And what you're going to want to make sure to do as you move your way up is really tamp it down. See how the warp threads are kind of disappearing? That's what you want. Is almost like a tapestry type of weaving where the warp thread disappears. And you just have that thought going through your head, the over, under, over, under. I'm actually doing this outside. It's still nice out. You can do it inside, have your music on. You can be teaching somebody how to do this. It's just a great project. And we're just going to keep going all the way to the top. I've switched colors here. I've done a little knot. I've doubled this thread up. I'm going to come around and make this one a little bit longer. This is tricky to see because, oops, there, I've made my mistake. Over there. This is, what is going on here? This is trickier to see because my warp thread is the same color as my weaving thread, and there's some kind of a mistake here. I don't know why, but you'll fix it on the next row. Another interesting, let's see, let's make sure we're going opposite here. This side looks okay. Let's see if we can fix our mistake on the other side. It is okay if you make a mistake one row to the other. Oops, this one went through the warp thread. That's bad. I'm going to pull this out. All right, so I'm going to try to fix this little mistake on these three. So I'm going to just make sure I go over, under, over, under, over, under, over. Oh, there, I caught it. And you can tell you caught it because you're doing the opposite of what you did before. So I must have just doubled up a string on a row back. The other thing I wanted to mention is when you're weaving, it's all about these warp strings. You usually don't have a piece of cardboard underneath, and weavers usually, early weavers will pull these ends too tight. You want to make sure there's a nice kind of even tension. The cardboard is helping it, but just so you don't super pull tight when you're going back your other direction. So it's just something to think about if you decide to move to, instead of a cardboard weaving, you actually get a little loom. This is a homemade loom, but you can also buy looms. They're beautiful. I'm going to go around the edge. Tamp it down. All right, we're getting close to the top. But the thing to remember is to really tamp it down. And it's going to get harder to weave the closer you come to the top because these warp strings are getting tighter as we're filling it in with all our weaving. I love this yarn. It's nice and soft and nubby. Whatever scraps you have lying around your house. Thrift stores sometimes sell yarn. Everyone's got some yarn around their house. You can unravel an old sweater. All right, I might, getting close to the top, and I might be at my last color. And remember, you really want to bring it down. Flip. It's even a little knot. And it's getting hard, that's for sure. All right. Bring that through. Oh, there we go. Right when you think you're done, you can always squeeze in another row. I'll just make for a fuller weave. All right, so over, under. Well, if you've been following along doing this, you're weaving. You'll start to look at clothing differently. Everything we wear, it's either knit, which is knots, like a t-shirt, obviously a sweater, or weaving. If you look at your jeans or you look at a dish towel, you'll start to see clothing that has the over-under. A dress shirt, that's weaving. Khaki pants, that's weaving. You'll start to appreciate the hard work that goes into a pair of jeans, even though machines do that now, or a dish towel. So this could be a good chance for you to pause the video so you can catch up until you're almost at the top. All right, we're almost at the top, and I realized I've been doing something to help me get my needle through the top. I can really only do this halfway. I'll pull my needle through and then just continue the stitch with the needle like this, and that way I can get the last few stitches just to really bump it up to the top. I'll show you that again. So over, under, over, under, over, under, until it gets kind of difficult. I'm just going to pull my needle just out of that weaving and then go over, under, over, under, over, under. And I can just squeeze another couple of rows in. Let's just say this will be the last row. Pull it out halfway. Over, under, over, under. Okay. So I'm going to end here. I'm going to cut this off here. And the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to weave this end into the pouch. And I'm going to do the same thing. I'm going to go just over, under, over, under, over, under. You don't have to go over, under every stitch here. It's really just to hide that thread. And then I'm just going to cut it really close. This is a knot. I'm just going to cut these knots. Well, I'm going to leave that knot. Just cut the knots close to the end. Oh, here's another little straggler. All right, now, remember we kind of got rid of some of these little threads. So this, we kind of wound around a bunch of times. This. So I'm gonna do the same with this thread. I'm going to just thread my needle, and I'm just going to go over, under, over, under, over, under, and just pull that needle, pull the thread out if you can find it. Where are you? Undo your needle, cut this. These ones are important to thread under because these were the start of your warp. Just over, under, over, under, over. I'm going to come out in the red. That way you're really hiding it. Pull that down and cut. Now we are going to take these little horizontals off. You're just going to kind of bend it. You got one on this side. Got one on this side. So you're just kind of flipping your loom kind of back and forth to get these little loops off. Because one loop is going to go to one side of your pouch, the other is going to the other side of your pouch, and that's what's making the opening. One loop goes to one side of the pouch, one loop goes to the other. And this. All right, so now all our loops are off on both sides. You can kind of bend the cardboard just to kind of loosen it up. And you're gonna just slowly try to shimmy your pouch off. And I'm going to turn it inside out just to hide some of those little knots. And then you can kind of start to pull your weaving up to just bring back those stitches. Pull your weaving down to close in that bottom. And you just kind of can keep kind of just playing with it. And there you have a pouch. I'm going to show you this other pouch has a braided cord. Well, you can just take some of your strings, braid a cord, and then you would just have to sew it to the bottom and have a little tassel. You could add a button. And does it fit our stuff? Let's see. Fits my earbuds. And I can stuff my mask in here. Even my chapstick. Oh, chapstick's not really fitting, but it's perfect for whatever you want to use. There you have it.